Welcome to Launch Code, a premier business podcast, starring Evan Hafer, Matt Best, and Jared Taylor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are today in the studio. I'm hosting Launch Code with co-host Logan Stark and Crispy. And we have a very good friend of mine, and Crispy's on the phone. His name is Caleb Copeland, and Caleb owns a company called Copeland Creative. And what we're going to talk about today, what Caleb does for a living. Caleb makes, produces, edits, films, hunting television shows. So Caleb worked for many years for a company called Sub 7, and then about a year ago, he left and started his own thing, and now he's doing his own business. So we want to talk about, anyone interested in hunting television and how it works. We're going to hear Caleb's story, and hopefully everybody can learn something.
Yeah, welcome, Caleb.
Welcome, Caleb.
Oh, appreciate it, guys. Glad to be here.
All right, so Caleb, the most interesting thing about you is let's talk about how you got into the hunting world. So tell that story about Field and Stream.
How long have I got? Like, do I need to condense this, or can I go long version?
30 minutes for everything.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, crazy story. I was reading a Field and Stream magazine, and I was about 20, 21 years old at the time. I don't remember exactly. And they were having a contest for a thing called Generation Wild, and you had to be under the age of 18 and under to sign up for this thing. And what it was they were looking for some up and coming kids in the outdoors to essentially be ambassadors for the future of the sport. And obviously, being over the age of 18, I couldn't sign up for this contest. But in winning the contest, you got to do a lot of cool things. You got to do a hunt with Realtree, tour Realtree farms. You got to go be in the filming of a show called Outdoor Icons that was on the Sportsman's Channel that was produced by Wolf Creek Productions back in the day. Lo and behold, I signed my brother up for this contest because he was 17 at the time. Sign him up because you have to write your first hunting story that you can remember. That's how you signed up. So I was with him on his first hunting experience. So I write this story out. I thought I did a pretty good job. And lo and behold, he is one of the 4 kids across the country that wins this thing.
But he didn't know that.
He did not know I signed him up. He thought it was a prank call when he got called by Field and Stream to tell him he won. So he immediately calls me and said, "What did you do?" And I told him what I did, and he said, "Well, I won this thing, and I'm going to Realtree Farms in 3 weeks, and this, that, and the other." So essentially, what I got to go with him on a couple of things. I got to go with him when they were shooting the TV show, see how a show worked behind the scenes. I got to tour Realtree Farms, meet the Realtree guys, meet one of their camera guys, kind of pick his brain on what he was doing. And at the time, I'm in college, playing baseball in college, and I was going to school for a business degree. Really didn't have a clue what I was going to do. And part of winning this contest was they had to do video blogs. So they gave all the kids, there were only 4 winners, they gave the kids video cameras, and they had to produce little tidbits for the website, like how to shoot your bow and, chicken trail cameras and just kind of the normal stuff, and just trying to get kids involved in the outdoors. And, I didn't want his just to be like selfie cam mode. I wanted his to be better than the other kids. So I started producing them, bought a second camera, started editing them together in iMovie on a little MacBook back in the day. And after his tenure was over, when he turned in all his videos, they were really happy with him. And they said, "We would like for you to, continue to do work for us after your tenure's over with the winning or the contest." And my brother straight up told him, "I didn't do any of that. My brother did all of that." So I did all the work for him, made him look really good, and that ended up getting me a job producing web shows for Field and Stream. And I did great. And that essentially
that's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, great.
Yeah, that got me enough money to buy my first HD camera. I was in IT right out of college, hated it, and for about 3.5 years, I would film whoever would let me go, and just trying to meet people, learn, gain, network, all the different things that you need to do. And I did it for 3.5 years for free. And the way I got my job and my foot in the door professionally and as a career was I knew Jeff Foxworthy through a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And I had his personal email address is literally all I had. I had a show idea watching, I think it was Swamp Bloggers or something one night. And I was like, had an idea for a show kind of along the same lines. So I, again, out on a whim, type out a really nice, well-written email outlining how I see this show. And, I was essentially asking Jeff his opinion. I immediately get a reply back from him and it says, I love this idea. Can I pitch this to somebody? And I said, absolutely. About a week later, I get a call from my former boss, who I don't know how many, guys are listening that followed outdoor television about 10, 15 years ago when I did. But Mark Womack was the guy that called me. And Mark Womack is, in those days, in the Bone Collector early days, the Realtree Road Trip days, like he was the guy. He single-handedly helped shape how we watch outdoor television today. And he was on the other end of the phone, and I couldn't believe it. He said, Caleb, this is Mark Womack, and Jeff Foxworthy just told me the show idea that you had. And I love it. He said, it's my job to poke holes in things, and I can't poke holes in this one. Would you be interested in coming down to shoot a pilot for it? And I said, absolutely. So I went down, shot a pilot. He hired me a year later, and that's how I got my start.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
That's great. You know who would really like that story is Evan Hafer, the fact that he did something for his brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Before you filmed this stuff and edited this piece that Field and Stream gravitated towards, had you picked up a camera before this? Had you done anything in the content space?
No, because the only reason I did it in the first place is because I'm really the only one in my family that had any technical knowledge whatsoever, like any tech savviness whatsoever. Everybody in my family is extremely blue collar. I mean, my dad owned a construction company. My brother works for chicken farms. Like that was how I grew up.
What year was this, Caleb?
Oh, this would have been 2008, 9, 7, somewhere around in there.
Well, let me ask you this. So that's super impressive in being in that space. Like that doesn't happen. You don't pick up a camera, edit, and then have something that a major publication like Field and Stream just loves. So what do you think it was about those original pieces of content that they really liked?
Probably I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just doing what felt right to me. And that way there was really no outside bias to it. It was just kind of how I grew up, viewing the outdoors and how how me and my brother interacted together maybe. But outside of that, I really don't know what they saw other than some initiative and some drive to create something better than other people. Cause I'm always I'm a competitive person, and I wanted his to be better than the other kids. And it ended up the other three kids just turned in selfie videos, and Josh turned in music and, content and edits and head and shoulders better than what the other kids did. And they saw initiative, which they thought was his initiative, but it wasn't. It was mine. And my brother was smart enough to tell them.
Do you think that sets you apart just because of the love of the outdoors that you have, the love that you have for hunting?
Yeah, did that portray in the camera?
Did that portray on the camera? Like, because, I the few times that we got together, and we filmed together, I got the sense of the love that you have for the outdoors, the what you're trying to film, and it's already in your head. You know what plays well and what you want for it. Like, did that play a big role in it?
Yeah, I think it could have. I think it had a lot to do with, I saw more or less to me, I saw an opportunity, and I wish I would have seen the opportunity even sooner. I saw an opportunity to, I never thought it would turn into what it did, but I figured that if I could do something cool that I could be proud of, because I mean, most people are their own worst critic, and I'm obviously my worst critic. I'm never happy with anything I put out, but we have deadlines, so I have to put things out. But it's like, I wanted it to be something I was proud of. I wanted to show it to my dad and to my mom and to my cousins and to my brother, and like people say, that's awesome, that's cool, and that's really what I went for. I mean, I had no direction. I just kind of fake it till you make it.
Damn.
And then that transferred to a job with Sub 7.
Yes, and I'll be the first to tell you, I was not qualified for. And Mark would probably tell you, because I got there the first day, and I remember being handed a hard drive it was the Respect the Game, Elites Respect the Game. I'll never forget it. Chance Chancellor, our production manager at the time, handed me a hard drive, and I'd never edited a full-length television show before. I knew how to run the program. I knew how to edit. This was
Sounds
back
like Black Rifle Coffee.
yeah.
Hey man, you're hired. Here's what you got to do.
This was Final Cut. This was Final Cut 7 days. This is before Adobe Premiere, and I got handed this hard drive, and he's like, "Hey, here's your hard drive. There's 4 hunts on here. I need you to cut this into about 22 minutes of content, broke up into 4 segments. Have it back to me in 2 weeks."
And the 4 segments, so what Caleb was talking about is, so your hunting TV show is 30 minutes long. You're looking at 22 minutes of show. And so what he's saying, the segments is some show, then commercial break, show, commercial break, show, commercial break. Yeah. So that's what he means.
So he handed that to me, and I would love to see the look on my face, because I was a lost puppy. I had no idea. And I remember like roughly that first segment, that first 5 minutes of content taking me a good week. And I was so proud of it, so proud of myself. I knew it took me too long. I took it to his office and showed it to him, and he tore it apart. He's like, "Dude, this is too long. This is too long. Why did you put this in here? This is terrible. This is terrible." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go fix it." So I took another day or two and go through it again, fix it. And I took it back to him, tore it apart again. And by the third time he tore it apart, I was getting pissed. I was like, "Dude, why? I can't make this any shorter. I cannot trim the fat anymore. You keep saying this is too long." And he sat me down and he showed me. And literally in 3 weeks of working with people that knew what they were doing, it was an eye-opening experience that I'll never forget, because watching him essentially show me how to edit. I knew how to use the program, but I didn't know how to edit. And those are two very different things.
Edit for television.
Oh gosh, yeah. And then editing to time, editing to music, how to get in and out of segments, how to change pace, how to do all the things that, I teach people all the time now. I got to actually see somebody do it, hide edits, how to fix edits, how to, fix guys in the field's mistakes, how to, cover your butt, how to, all the different things that it takes. I learned in essentially 3 weeks of an absolute crash course.
Damn.
And then it's been balls to the wall ever since.
So let me ask you this: how long would it take you now if someone handed you a hard drive like they did that first day and said, "Here, I need 4 episodes"? How long would that take you to knock out 4 episodes?
Oh, that if you handed me that show today, I could have that done in 3 or 4 days.
Oh, cool. I'm going to send you mine then.
Yeah, we got a lot of content.
I got a lot of content.
Logan's eyes just lit up. But hey, man, we got some work for you. But So you're at Sub 7. What are some of the shows that you worked on at Sub 7?
So my baby for the longest time was The Habit with Chuck Belmore, John Justice, and John Paul Morris from Bass Pro Shops. That was kind of mine and Chuck's brainchild. We absolutely poured our heart and soul into that show for about 3.5 years. During that show, the show I was hired to do was actually for Jeff Foxworthy. It was his web show. That was what got my feet wet, was the web show. And then during that, producing that web show for Jeff, I think we ended up doing 40, 50 something episodes of that web show. And then he got so busy with other stuff, he couldn't do it anymore. And then during that time, we started The Habit. And then right there at the end of The Habit, I was producing The Habit, and I was producing Gamekeepers for Mossy Oak. But during that time, I also we kind of tried to cross train guys, so we always weren't doing the same show. So I would go with Lee and Tiff occasionally. I would go with Craig Morgan occasionally.
So everybody listening, when he says Lee and Tiff, what he's talking about is Crush with Lee and Tiffany, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the most popular hunting show in the world.
Depending on what tracking system that you use, yeah, it's if it's not the number one, it's usually in the top 3 or 4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a guy I'd love to get on. The podcast would be Lee. How do you say his last name?
Lakoski.
Yeah, Lee Lakoski. Guy's a machine.
Yeah, if you want to talk about hunting, he's all about it. He'll talk your ear off hunting about whitetails. He loves them more than anybody I've ever met.
So you're at Sub 7 for roughly a decade, all right?
No, I was there for a little over 5 years.
Okay, half decade. Sounds good. And then you decided that you did not want to work for someone else. You wanted to work for yourself and do it your way.
Yeah, that's part of the reason.
I'm not trying to get into the other part of it on air. So you had a little misunderstanding, with your former boss, and you decided, hey, it's time to go. I want to do my own thing. So let's. I think this will resonate with a lot of people. So you went from a secure job that you'd had for half a decade, and decided to make the leap to do
against my wife's judgment. Yes.
Right. But you decided to leave and do your own thing. And that, you had how many kids did you have at that time?
At the time I just had my second.
Okay. So you got one baby, new baby at the house, and you decided to go out and start your own thing. All right. What were some of the things that you did to prep for that? So, I mean, people, there's someone out there listening that wants a career change or wants to change jobs or, thinking about doing something on their own, or an entrepreneur that wants to start his own business and leave a corporate job or whatever. Talk about like some of the things,
sacrifices.
Yeah, the sacrifices
that
and
every day.
Yeah, what'd you have to do? Like, how was that process experience for you?
Well, I was very fortunate to where I had, my wife didn't want me to leave, but she was very supportive in it. My mom and dad were very supportive. My dad always owned his own business, so he was obviously very supportive. Having a good support system was awesome. In the process of leaving, going ahead and buying my gear, so I didn't have all that to buy when I left, not having all that money to spend as soon as I left. So I had a lot of it already bought. That way I didn't have to just go get a loan for it. I already had it, just buying things slowly at a time. Another reason I bought it is because at Sub 7, we never knew where our gear was going to be. And I liked having my gear. I didn't like running somebody else's or not knowing where mine was or taking care of something and somebody else beating it up. So I would buy things as I went. And I did a really good job of networking. I leaned on some people like Baker and some other people to where I knew I could have work when I left. I didn't leave and not have anything lined up, and that was Baker, when I talked to you before I left, it's like, don't leave without, knowing that you've got some stuff out there. And I didn't have enough to support my family by no means when I first left, but I was confident in, myself, knowing what my abilities were, knowing the network that I knew that I would have work. And man, the first 2 months were scary, but 3 or 4 months in, I knew I was going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember you called me and you're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving. And I was like, "Okay, this is about the 7th time you said this over the past 2 years." I was like,
I was serious that time, though.
Yeah, you were. So what? Caleb called me and I spun it up and got on the phone and I was like, "Well, hey, let me see what kind of work I can find for you." Some of it was small, some of it was medium sized. Nothing was big, but for those listening, like, lean on your contacts. And so I made some calls to some companies. I was like, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" I got a buddy that's starting his own gig. I think we can probably get some really quality work for not a lot of money. And so lean on network. Let me ask you this: how much, with all your gear and equipment, how much would you say all that's worth retail, full price retail?
I actually just got a quote on insurance to do insurance again for it, like today. And I figured and this is the beauty of a production company, I figured if I had to buy everything tomorrow, I would probably have around, this is just gear. This is not like my truck and stuff like that. This is probably, I don't know, probably $30,000-$40,000-ish $1,000. Not too terribly much, to run a small business. I would think that. But the greatest part about it is if I had insurance and everything got stolen or burned up or sunk in the ocean tomorrow, in 2 days off Amazon, I could be up and running again. So that's the beauty of this business.
Nice.
Right.
So Caleb, let me ask you this: not that you need the validation or anything, and obviously you've done a lot in your career, but when was it the moment that you realized that all your hard work and sweat and everything that you put into it, when did you feel that you've made it?
Tax season this last year, when I made over $30,000 more than I did my last year at Sub 7.
There you go.
And then this year I've already made more than that, and it's only 8 months into the year. So that made me.
Those invoices,
that made it better for me.
Those invoices you send me probably get paid a little bit slower now after I hear that.
Well, I'm glad he said it, because now when we do a project together, be like, you got it.
Yeah. So hold on. One thing I know that you hate. Okay, so we're talking about you starting your own business. For me, when I think of like logistics and accounting and legal and all that stuff, that gives me anxiety because it's not what I'm good at. What are some of the things that you hate?
No way, Baker. No way.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you hate about being a business owner?
Number one is chasing money. I hate it. I hate being the guy I hate the guy that has to call up and say, "Hey, you still owe me this amount of money." And in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money, but when you have a wife that stays at home and 3 kids, it's a lot of money. Especially
I do
when
it to Baker all the time.
Yeah, when you don't have that security blanket of knowing I've got X amount of dollars coming in every 2 weeks to where I know it's going to be there. There is beauty in that, but that's another reason that I ended up leaving Sub 7 was, I knew how much money I was going to make, but I also knew I'm probably not going to make any more. That's as much money as I can make here. It might improve a little bit, but now the beauty of it is there's really not any limit. I'm looking at hopefully next year being able to hire an employee, and be able to really step things up and do a lot more things. And I've got projects, and me and Baker have talked about all these projects that I want to do. But, and then the second part is just how to find somebody that's as passionate as you are to go after some of these projects. Because once you get into some of these short films and some of these web shows and some of these series, there's a lot of costs associated with some of those things. And if you don't have a company that feels the same way that you do in order to either float or be a part of that program or that series, I don't have the money to do it. Baker, I've got 2 series right now I've told you about and a film that I would kill to do, but I can't afford to do them. If I could afford to do them, I would. Right now I don't have the time to do them. But it's one of those things to where finding people that are as passionate about their business as you are about yours, and then chasing money. That's been the 2 things that I've struggled with.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I tell you, I'm excited to do some work again together, man. Last year was fun. That turkey hunt you filmed and produced, man, was by far one of the best that I've done with anybody.
Yeah, what are some of those
appreciate it.
collaborations you guys have worked on in the past?
We did a turkey hunt together. It was him, Baker, and I.
R5 Ranch.
Yeah, R5 Ranch. And Caleb and I kind of been talking about future projects that I got. I got a bunch of hunts coming up this year, and I just want to be able to capture it on film, share it with everybody, and along the way make a decent amount of money off of it. Just because, man, I do a lot in the hunting industry, and I just feel like I want to share with everybody because, yeah, it's just like anything else, man. A lot of people think they can't do a certain thing, but I'm like, dude, I'm doing it here every hunting season. Like, let's do something together. And what really got me interested in Caleb was the way that he was able to capture the hunt that we did on that turkey hunt. And dude, it was just amazing work. Like you killed it, man. And I'm not just saying this because, I met you through Baker and we've become friends since, but it was amazing work. I'm not going to lie, man. It's great stuff. I look at that video every once in a while, and I think I might drop it again on my Instagram so people can see it.
Do it, man. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, Baker and I have been on several hunts, actually. Baker and I have done that one in Texas. We did Oregon this year. We've been to Africa.
In the rain.
We did it in the rain, in the steep, a lot steeper country. But gosh almighty, I've never seen so many friggin' Rios, man. That place is awesome.
Yeah, I watched the video you did with Baker on his hog hunt.
The warthog in Africa.
And yeah, I will say, man, like you definitely you've got the eye, and you make the audience connect with it.
Did Baker tell you that he owes that hog to me? Because I was standing in the window about to shoot another one when that one walked in, and I graciously stepped aside because I knew he wanted to shoot that big hog.
Hold on.
What?
No.
Yeah.
God,
Yes.
never in a million years would I have ever done that.
Hold on. No,
Screw
yeah,
that.
you would have. Yeah, you
No,
would
I
have.
wouldn't. Heck no, I would have shot another one.
Here's the story. we were in Africa in the blind.
Let me see if he tells this right or not.
And
He
we're
probably won't.
Hold on, we're sitting there, and we had that. You guys have seen that pig. We'll get a picture up. It was one of the top 3 biggest warthogs taken in South Africa that year. There's no photo that does it justice. It's comically big. It's absurd. And this hog had been playing cat and mouse with us all day long. He was roaming probably 60, 70, 80 yards out back, and we could see his tail, and he just wouldn't come in. And then one time he came in and didn't have the shot right. The shot wasn't right, and he left. And then all of a sudden we just got bum rushed by Nyala and other warthogs. And we're sitting there, and lights running out. It's last filming light. Caleb had every setting on his camera set, and it's like, well, he's not going to come in. Just drill that warthog right there. He goes, okay, man, I'm going to. And then all of a sudden he goes, oh God, Baker, here he comes. He's coming back in. And so Caleb steps out of the way, like the gentleman that he is, and goes, there he is, drill him. And so I grabbed my bow, drew it back, and he was 13 yards in front of us. Caleb put his bow down, jumped on the camera, and just drilled him. And I remember Dries, the PH in Africa stands for professional hunter. So our PH, he goes, whatever you do, Baker, do not shoot the Cape buffalo. There's a monster.
Don't shoot the buffalo.
There's a $16,000 Cape buffalo, literally out, Caleb, what, 3-4 feet away from him?
Yeah, and I just know you're just going to take out that little ankle on that thing and just let him drop right there and kick. That's what I was waiting on.
But no, that was a great trip, man. We did some really cool stuff. We
God, it was so much fun. I want to go back so bad.
We got both got really nice Nyalas, and then Caleb's Nyala shot it right at last light. It runs off. We're tracking it. And then we got charged by 2 Cape buffaloes, and we're like, all right, we'll just come back in the morning. So we get up.
I did not realize how grave of a situation that was until after we got out of there. Dude, that could have got sideways real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think didn't Vasi pull out his pistol and shoot into the ground and run him off or something?
Vasi not only pulled out his pistol and shot at the ground, but he monster trucked several of those trees in that Land Cruiser to get over there.
It was nuts. And so we're sitting there and like, all right, we'll just come back in the morning and recover Caleb's Nyala. Well, we come back the next morning. A brown hyena had gotten on his Nyala and eaten the entire right side of it. Right eyeball, right ear, entire right side of it. But the beauty is it didn't touch the left side, so we set up for a photo and it looked real nice.
Oh, yeah, you told me that story.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But no, Caleb and I have hunted numerous places. He's a phenomenal camera guy. He's very meticulous about how he wants his shots set up.
We prefer producer.
Yeah.
Producer, I'm sorry.
And,
I told you he was going to jack it up.
So, and then we hunted in Oregon this year in the pouring down rain for 3 days.
Gosh,
and
yeah,
God Almighty, it was miserable. Anyway,
it was a beautiful place, though.
We're running out of time. So, any advice you have for anyone looking to get into the hunting, film, television, camera production realm? Any advice for them?
Learn how to edit, and you're going to have to work for free in the beginning to network. You're going to have to go out there, put yourself out there, gain a resume, meet some people, fail, do all those good things. But the number one thing is learn how to edit. You can teach a monkey how to run the camera. You cannot teach anybody how to edit correctly. Not how to use the program, how to edit. Anybody can learn the program, but learning how to edit is it's not an art form. I wouldn't put it up on that high of a pedestal, but it is a skill set that's not for everybody, but that is a surefire way to get a job in this business is to know how to shoot and to edit.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would argue that. I would say it 100% is an art form. I don't see the difference from because what I love about editing is you have to take a blank canvas. You've got all your paints, as in your video clips, and you have to make something that somebody is going to want to sit and look at.
Yep.
That's an art form to me. And especially now when people have such short attention spans, you really have to know beats and pacing and visual cues. And
that's incredibly important. But one thing that I always tell people is editing is only about 20 or 30% of a really good piece, because what makes a really good piece is how it's shot in the field. If it's shot correctly and you've got all those puzzle pieces or all those right color paints, it makes an editor's job a lot easier. Now, when you forget things, when you don't get things, when you don't get steady video, when things are out of focus, when you don't get establishing shots, when you don't go back and get that one recreate that you needed to make things make sense in the field, that's when editing becomes hard, because now you're trying to fill gaps that you shouldn't be filling if you had somebody in the field doing it. That's why I don't like editing things that I didn't shoot, because I know when I bring it back and I shot it, I know I'm going to have everything that I need.
Right.
So when I leave that shooting into someone else's hands, I don't know what I'm getting, So that's kind of but no, I agree. I mean, editing is a huge part of it, but if it's shot correctly, the editing part almost does itself, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And what program are you editing on now?
The whole Creative Cloud, Premiere, Lightroom, Photoshop, After Effects, all those good ones.
Oh, no wonder you make me look so good.
Yeah, and that's also primarily in Adobe Premiere. But would you say that a beginner should just jump right into that creative suite, or do you think kind of start in iMovie or Final Cut and then move into that, or?
I would have said that until I see how differently they lay out. Essentially, you have to learn 2 different programs. I think it's intuitive enough to do simple things in Premiere to where you can essentially build up to where you need to be. I think a lot of guys get stuck once they get into Premiere iMovie to where they're really set up for brand new people to get in there and to start editing right off the bat. But guys essentially get lazy and they don't want to learn a new program. And those programs usually have limitations to what you can do. So they'll never move over to essentially the big boy program and go further, or go, or even step into like the DaVinci Resolve space when you're going to color or things like that. I say if you're going to do it, I don't do anything, half-buttedly. I do it, you might as well, if you're going to do it and do seriously, go ahead and do Premiere.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, Caleb, where can everyone find you?
Pretty much just on Instagram. My Instagram's at Cope Creative, COPE Creative, and my website's copeland-creative.com.
All right, man. Caleb, it's always good talking to you. I definitely want to do that Oklahoma deer hunt with you. I'll get you a deposit this week on that.
Take me.
I might take you, Crispy. So anyway, Caleb, thanks for coming on, man. Anyone has any questions or anything like that for Caleb, hit him up on Instagram. He's very responsive. Caleb also has his own podcast called the Redneck. What is it, Caleb?
It's Redneck Tech.
Redneck Tech Podcast, where he literally gets into the mechanics of hunting and running equipment and how all that stuff works with, like, being a film guy. So that's a great resource if you're interested. Redneck Tech Podcast as well. So everyone, thanks for listening. Caleb, we'll talk to you soon, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Good luck in Idaho.
All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, Caleb.
Peace.